Hello, what is good? Welcome back to the channel. Happy Saturday. My name is Chuck. Thank you very much for being here. We'd like to talk about investing in the Pokemon market. If you are new here, appreciate you being here and checking it out. I'm responding in this video. I'm responding to the top comment on the video I posted yesterday saying everybody's right in a bull market. Love your openness and honesty. Time to start talking about the overall market and pullback possibilities, i.e., this product is out of print, so MSRP is not possible, but I would be a buyer if it pulls back to X price. So I'm going to be talking about, in the event that there's a Pokemon downturn, what are we going to do? Help, we're crashing. What do I buy? I first would like to start by saying I don't think that there's going to be a huge, significant crash for certain areas of the Pokemon space. I think a lot of sealed that's getting up there in age is going to be relatively insulated from any major downturns. Reason being, sets that are closer to out of print or fully out of print or out of rotation are less likely to get more product. And so in a market where supply is outpacing demand, they're a little bit safer, just natural, demand and supply. And so kind of where I would draw the line there would be probably the early Scarlet and Violet block. I would say everything after that, it's going to be hit or miss depending on, the impact a huge supply wave could have. I might even argue up to like surging and then prismatic and on. That's where a lot of people have decided, and really the Pokemon company, they've come out and they've said, prismatic, we're going to be trying to meet demand for this. And so I would say prismatic and on is where there's the most potential for sets to be well within the print window in a potential downturn. And at this point, the only way I see a huge downturn happening is if there's a huge economic recession, which we don't really have yet, but there are kind of signs in the market that there's some uncertainty. I think an AI bubble popping, which is a very real possibility if you know what you're talking about, could occur, and I think that could lead into something else. On top of that, I think there's like a really, really bad scarcity mindset amongst the younger, Gen Z folks who feel like they can't get ahead, and who knows what could happen there. But it's impossible to buy a house right now. Most people I know don't own a house. It's hard to put money anywhere because everything's so expensive. But all you can really do at the end of the day is just ride the waves of your own situation and navigate your own sales and whatever market conditions there are. So let's just say there's a big downturn. All of a sudden, this week, Pokemon drops 20%, which I would consider to be a very large downturn in the Pokemon space. We've probably only had that once or twice, and it's usually correlated with market crashes. 2020 kind of saw that because spending stopped, but then it picked right back up right after that as the stimulus checks rolled out. Everybody was at home. Just for the record, I understand, but just worth noting. So the sets that I would be looking at to feel good about as far as like my risk tolerance, Sword and Shield, I think has potential to see definitely some price drop, but nothing too significant. I would be shocked if it was more than 10% at all-time highs. Like Sword and Shield, we're not getting more product for it. It's already been fully absorbed by the Pokemon market. I do think there's a pretty significant amount of product on shelves, but I don't think, especially right now, the mentality with Sword and Shield is that people aren't really wanting to give it up because they know it's out of print. So why would they do that? Because they just assume the price is going to go up. And I think there's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy there where because people think the price is going to go up, it kind of just does with a deflationary asset. You know what I'm saying? A deflationary product that only decreases over time. Where I think most of the pain really in this entire video will be is cards like singles and slabs. I think slabs and singles, especially slabs, are a little bit overvalued at the moment. There's just so much money being flooded into the space. More people are getting into grading. The second that anything changes as far as underlying capital goes for the majority of collectors, investors, whoever it may be, Slabs and singles are going to be one of the first things people stop spending money on, in my opinion. I think people are more likely to spend money on a booster box versus a slab just because there's only going to be fewer of them as time goes on. So I don't know. For me, Sword and Shield, let's say a 20% crash happens. Immediately, I'm going into Crown Zenith, I'm going into Evolving Skies, and I'm going into Fusion Strike. I would be happy in a downturn to buy any of these three products because I'm still buying them now. Arguably at the top of the bull market, which we don't even know what that means in Pokemon for real, because there's really no sign of stopping at the moment. But the priorities for me in my investing strategy is relatively the same. It's buy the best sets at the best price I can possibly get them. If that means dollar cost averaging on a set like Evolving Skies, then I will happily do that because I know even in a bear market, demand will be relatively high for the best sets of any era. And then the second a bull market happens again, these will see kind of an increased ROI, or appreciate at a faster rate, I should say. I think Silver Tempest, Astral, Brilliant, Chilling are pretty much going to perform just slightly worse. Lost Origin will probably be closer in performance to Fusion, but I think there's more of Lost Origin out there from a supply standpoint. But it does have the benefit of that Shinji working for it. Lost Origin was always a box I felt like was just overvalued, but I guess the Giratina is so strong it doesn't really matter. But when I compare it to a set like Fusion Strike, I would rather have Fusion Strike. And Crown Zenith I think is a generational set, super fun to rip. The ROI on packs is one of the highest even with all the time that has passed, which really speaks volumes for the quality of the set and the desirability of the cards. I think singles could get hammered in Crown Zenith though, which is kind of interesting. I mean, the demand will be there, but like that's an area I'd feel pretty uncomfortable holding, just because of the supply that's out there. Evolving Skies, obviously, the best set of the modern era. Sealed is only going to go up. I don't think even a bear market can really make a significant dent in the price for this, just because I think demand will always be there for Evolving. Interestingly, if we move to Scarlet and Violet, I think a lot of the arguments are somewhat similar, but just a little bit weaker because the sets are newer. We know that sets from Scarlet and Violet base up to Paldean are being rotated out. I think singles could definitely get hit pretty hard, but I think the chase cards in each set, like Pally Evolved, the Magikarp in 10s, so slabs in these sets, might actually do pretty well, just because the gem rates are so low. Whereas in Sword and Shield, I think they're a little bit more susceptible to dropping because there's a higher gem rate, and so there's a higher supply. But the Magikarp, for instance, like the people who own these, I don't think they're going to be like dumping them. They're probably going to prioritize dumping something else. But that's like, this is kind of a grail for a lot of people, and I just don't see like, what is it, 3,000 to 5,000 of these cards like just flooding the market at that price. I think people are just going to be more willing to hold on to them for the long haul. But I think a lot of like these illustration rares, especially the singles prices, like could definitely take a hit. There's no doubt in my mind, especially when you pair that with mega sets that are coming out, perceivably being like better sets. We've already seen this with Mega Evolution kind of taking away a lot of steam from some other sets. And some of the market sentiment is going, and a lot of the hype is being driven towards these mega sets. So I think a lot of illustration rares could be under threat. I do think singles and slabs are going to come down at some point. And there's already some fatigue with some things like, PC ETB promos, ETB promos, things like that like everybody's talking about. There's a shit ton of, and they're kind of just sitting on in vendor booths for a while in a lot of cases. Paldean, Paradox Rift, Scarlet and Violet base, Obsidian Flame, similar story for each. I think they're all in pretty good spots on the sealed side. Booster boxes will probably hold some pretty good value for a while, but don't be surprised if demand drops significantly for these sets, just because they're not like the most desirable sets when there's other things to be considered. For instance, Paldean Fates and 151. 151 I don't think is going to get hammered at all. I think the singles could see a bit of a drop because again, like a lot of people are kind of getting towards their master sets. They have the singles that they want. Prices continue to move up, but I think prices are moving up largely because there's a lot of speculation on 151 long term, and I think anything that could threaten the Pokemon IP, like an economic recession, I could see a lot of these flooding back into the market, just people wanting to get some of that capital back on a more speculative product within the space. But sealed product is probably just going to keep doing well, even in that event. 151 Kanto Generation 1, phenomenal arts. It's over 2 years old, right? So there's really a lot going for it. There's so much insulation from outside sources at this point, I would say, that I'm not really concerned about sealed product for 151. If anything, I think if you bought at these levels, I promise you're going to be making money at some point in the mid or long term. And that goes for most products, but 151 I have like maximum confidence in, as you guys probably do as well. So, I think 151 is straight. It's going to be good. Paladin Fates, I think probably a similar sentiment, but just a bit weaker. I definitely think that like these cards could come down in value as more sets get released, and in a bad market. Bubble Mew being as expensive as it is, I mean, there's a lot of demand for this card. And I think if it dropped, it would just probably get bought up. But like the Gardevoir, I could see dropping. The Charizard, I could see dropping. And so for me, like it's really about the main chase. I don't see products getting hit too hard just because it's seemingly kind of short printed to some extent, given its release date in early 2024. By the time anything significant happens in the space, like I just think there's not going to be enough product to really make a huge dent. And so, if there's a 20% downturn, this is going to be not down 20% in my opinion. That's just me. So, liquidity might fall a little bit for like the ETBs and the PCTBs, but there's just not that many of them out there. So that's kind of what I think. It's really benefiting from its release date and of course the demand currently. Temporal, I could definitely see a drop. Twilight Masquerade, I could definitely see a drop, but the Greninja is going to help it. Shrouded Fable, obviously it's already, it's like, it basically dropped. We've already seen it in a bear market, perform. Same with like Paradox and Temporal and all these other sets that are kind of mid. But again, it's benefiting a little bit from age, these sets, so I certainly wouldn't be buying them. I would be only focusing on the best sets like 151 and Paladin Fates out of this block. Maybe even Paradox Rift. Maybe Twilight if there's a good enough deal. Stellar Crown, I think, it's not talked about very often. And I think for good reason. It's a pretty weak set. Not very deep. The Squirtle and the Bulbasaur will probably hold well, but I could definitely see them dropping. There's a pretty good amount of supply out there. And the set is relatively new. And there's just not a ton of demand for it. So, in a bear market with not a lot of demand, this is not a set that I would be buying. Surging Sparks is in an interesting position because it's approaching a year in age, and we're getting more product than like vending machines right now with like booster boxes, and you see bundles getting released at Walmart and ETBs and all that. So we're kind of in this like huge print cycle at the moment for Surging, but it is being absorbed pretty rapidly by the market. A lot of it's being ripped. Booster boxes are still selling consistently above like 225. We're at that price. And if it's at that price, it goes pretty quick. I think the cards are strong enough to leave interest in it. And I think demand will always be there for this set as a top booster box of the era. Not the, but a. So Surging, I think, is actually in a pretty good spot right now where it's a great buying opportunity. And I think if you can get booster boxes close to 225 or so, which you can locally, I know it's selling for 300 on TCG Player, but if you know, you know. All right. And I'm in a big city, so I understand if it's harder for some of you, but I think Surging is actually a great buying opportunity at the moment. I think ETBs are doing well. I think booster bundles will be a little bit slower to do well, but we'll probably do well. Give this set 6 months, it's going to be in a different place than it is now. And It'll be 6 months older, that much closer to 2 years. Prismatic, I just think there's too much demand for this set. I think there's too much value in the cards. It's too desirable to fail. I think it's too big to fail. And I genuinely believe that. And we've seen that over the last 10 months. You know, we have seen so much Prismatic product hit the market. And it's probably the set that has the most demand outside of 151, just because 151 products aren't coming in mass. But this set, we're getting a ton of products. It's just getting bought up instantly. Being ripped like crazy. Bundles are starting to move. The Lucario boxes are still releasing at Sam's. They get sold out in a few hours. ETBs are on the move because we haven't gotten a huge ETB reprint in a month. Hopefully that'll change soon. I want more. But yeah, I think Prismatic is going to be insulated. It's going to still be a buy. And if it drops in price, hey, you have a great opportunity to get in on arguably the best set of the era. I would say by many metrics, it probably is. So, you know, Journey Together, now we're, you know, after Prismatic, we're entering that like phase where there could be a potential lot of product and it's closer to a potential bear. If it happens next year, like these sets are going to be more vulnerable. Journey Together is one of those sets that will appreciate well. Just not as well as some others. It needs some time, but we're still getting product for it, and we're going to get more product for it in the future. There's no doubt. Enhanced booster boxes, it's TBD on whether or not the ones released will be enhanced, but I would assume that they would be. Maybe we don't even get more boxes at this point. Been 7 months already, but I have to imagine we will at some point in the next year. But yeah, Journey Together could definitely take a hit in a big bear market with a ton of product out there. You've already seen it with this set. You know, sitting on shelves for longer than most. Destined Rivals is a set that I want as much as possible of. I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to get more product of insignificant quantity in the future. Maybe it will be a Costco thing. It's probably not going to be this year. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But bundles, ETBs, you know, 3-pack blisters, check lane blisters, right? Like these, and sleeve boosters, like these are going to be products that are going to hit the market en masse. In a downturn, I think there's a great buying opportunity for Destined to load up on. Because look, it's coming up on half a year old. If you buy this set over the next year, you know, you'll probably see some products here and there, but if you prioritize the good products like ETBs and bundles and booster boxes, like I don't think you can fail with Destined Rivals. I think eventually it will pull through and just be the beast that it already is. That's a set that I would be targeting personally. Black Bolt and White Flare is interesting. I'd probably pass on White Flare, although I think it's pretty good, but like I think Black Bolt has a lot of opportunity long term. I definitely think it's a set that could sit on shelves. You know, we see people pass on Black Bolt and White Flare on shelves even now. But demand is pretty high, and I think it's a set that's going to age well. Once people start accepting it in their hearts that Gen 5 is actually not that bad. It's pretty damn good. Like a top 4. It's arguably a top 4 Pokédex in my opinion. And I think the legendaries are pretty phenomenal across the board. But you know, I have to be realistic at the same time. Victini, Zekrom, Seismitoad, the Zekrom EX or the Zekrom SIR. And then there's a great supporting cast of really, in my opinion, pretty desirable chase cards like Kyurem and Genesect. I think is cool. Superior, Haxorus, like I think there's a lot in here for a lot of people. And if this just gets flooded onto the market, I'm going to be looking at things like cases of ETBs, cases of booster bundles. That's pretty much what I would be prioritizing. Booster bundle display would be awesome to have. I think 920 just feels super high to me at the moment when you can still get them reasonably low, you know, MSRP lose price. So that's a set that I would actually be picking up myself. Cases of. And then you have Mega Evolution. You know, I think we'll get a lot of product for this set, and I think we'll get a lot of product for upcoming Mega sets in general. But like, look, the cards are gonna drop. Maybe the gold cards hold a little bit more value, but a lot of people are pulling these SARs. I know the pull rates aren't that amazing, but they're not super bad. Um, and a lot of people are ripping this set. And if we get better mega sets, which I'm sure a few of them will be better. I don't think Phantasmal Flames will be better, but I think probably Dream, Legendary Dream. If we get a Gen 3 set, see you later. Whatever. But Mega Evolution, I think all these mega sets will do pretty well long term. But these are opportunities I'd be looking at, well, like ETBs, like cases, like bundle cases, booster boxes. Like, give me all the booster boxes for these mega sets that I can. You'll be doing very well. So, like, to conclude this video, we always talk about like opportunities in the market. We don't talk about like what would happen as much, like if there was a huge downturn. But really, my plan is essentially the exact same. It's focus on the best products and the best sets, and you just make adjustments as the winds go. You change your sails. And if you're a true investor, that's what you should be doing anyway. Because if you're a true investor, then long term, you're not super concerned about price movements day to day. We talk about them because it's important to know trajectories and try to forecast and make the best buying opportunities that we can right now, because we would like to maximize our ROI if possible. And I'm for the sake of this video, I'm excluding talking about grading, talking about vending, talking about all this stuff. I'm just talking about investing and sealed, in slabs and singles. I think slabs and singles will get hammered, and that's natural. That's expected. I think the good sets will weather the storm better, and I think there will be great buying opportunities on them. So I'm not worried about it. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, well, we all just keep making money, and I keep buying at all-time highs, and it keeps going up. So that's my plan. I believe in the IP long term, at least for multiple years, for 3 to 5 years, which is when I'll be taking some profits on a lot of stuff, which is going to happen soon, by the way. I'm going to take some profits. I've been saying I'm not going to sell this year. I think that's still the plan. But there are some collection boxes I desperately need to get rid of just because it's taking up space. But I don't mind holding on to them because it's not like super dire. But yeah, this is what I'm thinking about. Develop a framework. Acknowledge your scarcity mind, your mentality. And understand that like other people are going to be doing what's best for them. Try not to compare yourself. Do what's best for you. Capitalize on opportunities and continue to learn and enjoy your time in the hobby. I like to rip packs. I'm learning the game. I'm having fun in my life generally. Pokemon isn't everything. So keep that in mind. Have a plan. Pay attention to crypto, where money flows. Pay attention to the stock market. Pay attention to rate cuts. Pay attention to all these things. It's interesting. But don't let it like consume you. Okay? And take that from a 28-year-old who knows everything, apparently. Anyway, really appreciate y'all watching. I will see you very soon tomorrow in the stream, and then Monday market update. Goodbye.